iPhone Life magazine has been published since fall of 2008, but we've been in business since 1985, publishing magazines for mobile computing users. iPhone Life has come out quarterly since the fall of 2008, and starting the fall of this year, 2010, we're going to come out 6 times a year. We're introducing a new buyer's guide and a new how-to guide. The iPhone Life is everything you can possibly want to know about your iPhone, iPod Touch, or iPad. We had been doing a magazine for Microsoft, that was based on Microsoft-based PDAs. And we started that in the 90s, late 90s, and we ran it all the way through 2008. But Microsoft, for whatever reason, really sort of lost their focus as they moved to smartphones. And they pretty much became, I hate to say this, but dysfunctional, and from our point of view, and they lost a lot of the enthusiast audience. And the iPhone, actually we've always been in the sort of the Microsoft camp for many years, and started off with Hewlett-Packard based products, as I worked as an engineer for Hewlett-Packard. But iPhone and Apple, I was just blown away about what they did with the iPhone. I really, after watching Microsoft struggle with getting all the computing features in a small little device, for watching them struggle getting that right for so many years, I began to think it wasn't possible. But the iPhone is such a pleasant user experience, where the focus was obviously on the user first and features second. And then with the App Store, it just became a great device and a perfect device for us to write about, because we've always written for enthusiasts, and that's what we do in the magazine. We talk about apps, we talk about accessories, we talk about, we give profiles of people who use the iPhone, we talk about creating apps, we talk about how people use their iPhone, we have lots of tips and tutorials. And so we just jumped to the iPhone from Microsoft Windows Mobile and haven't looked back. It started back in 1985 when I left Hewlett-Packard and moved here to Fairfield. The idea came to me that people, when I had worked at Hewlett-Packard, I realized that people weren't using their HP portable, their first DOS laptop computer, they weren't using it to their full potential. And so HP let me have a mailing list, and I mailed out a mailing, and a whole bunch of people sent me $55 to subscribe to a magazine that I didn't really know anything about magazines at the time. And so I decided, well, I better do something about it. And another fellow Fairfieldite, George Foster, who told me, oh yeah, I could put together a magazine. Long story short, the first magazine, we were up 3 days and 3 nights with type and putting it on papers and pasting it to get it ready. And what I discovered, interestingly enough, and this sort of goes to your question about contributors and how we write the magazine, is when I sent out the mailing, I got several people wrote back and said, oh, you can do, and gave me a whole bunch of tips and tricks. And at that point, I wrote them back and said, well, why don't you write for our magazine, and why don't you contribute? And I didn't actually pay them anything to contribute, but you know, they were interested, and they were obviously enthusiasts. And so with that model of getting contributors who just wanted to share, we built our magazines and our websites. Now, if you go to iPhoneLife.com, you'll see a ton of great contributors, and they're all volunteers. And here I'm going to show how an example here. I don't know if you can zoom in, but on this page here, this is our latest issue, and all these folks, we've got a doctor in there, a lawyer in there, some professional webmasters, we've got sales, we've got all sorts of different people who, a mom of 4 who likes to write from mom's issues for the iPhone. We've got all sorts of interesting people that write for the magazine that we turn into their sometimes great English, sometimes not so good English, into a very readable format. Our editor, Rich Hall, who's worked for me for 22 years, does that. And so that's how we get all our material, from volunteers from all around the world. And if you look through the pages of the magazine, this first issue was, the iPad just was announced, and this was a fun issue because we had 3 days between getting the article written and getting it actually printed and mailed to a trade show. And somehow we were able to pull it off thanks to our cooperation of our printer. And so this was written by a volunteer writer who was watching the press conference and sort of synthesized the information. And we have another guy who writes all our enterprise articles, and he wrote his take of it. And we had our bloggers write about the iPad and their impressions, liking it or not liking it. And so this is just an example of what we've done. And we will be covering the iPad as well as the iPhone and the iPod Touch. And you can see we have a great article about camera, using the camera. There's something called iTunes University with all sorts of wonderful free information, and we wrote about that in the magazine here. Just turning the pages, what will we get? Oh, this is a wonderful section. There's several websites that have awards for best apps. And so we partnered with them, and they wrote some great articles about the best apps as voted by judges and end users, and stuff that you might not have discovered normally. And so there's pages and pages of this particular lead article, because there's so many apps. And then there's something called augmented reality on the iPhone, and we've got a really interesting article sort of making use of GPS and real and superimposed information. We have, there's a very famous thing, David Allen. Some people who are watching this may know about Getting Things Done, which was a very popular way of getting things done. And these are ways you can do it on the iPhone. I mean, if you just turn pages and pages, going back to the table of contents, just to give you an idea, we have a section on apps. We have a section on accessories, using the iPhone at work, and how to create apps. And you can see some of the neat articles here. Here's one on women's health care and mothers, and helping mothers. Here's a biography of a pilot. Something that we've sort of renamed app accessories, which are combinations of accessories and an app that goes with the accessory. So you can see this is a very full and rich experience if you look through our magazine, and really it's for folks who want to have more fun and get more done with their iPhone. This is a scoop right here. We haven't publicly announced it, but there's two new changes. If you actually go to our website now, this is mid-March of 2010, you'll see that we offer a subscription that's just 4 times a year. So we're moving to 6 times a year, and we're also going to be bundling the digital version of the magazine with the subscription, starting with the summer issue. And this is for all our existing subscribers. And what that means is there's a company called Zinio, and if you can go to zinio.com, and they offer a variety of magazines, including ours. And you can read those magazines on a PC, on a Mac, and now on the iPhone and on the iPad. And in fact, if you download the Zinio app, you can see a sample issue that you can read of iPhone Life that you can read for free on using the Zinio app. And it's the entire magazine. It's a digital version of the magazine that you download. And then they have a neat little feature where you can press a little button and you can read it more in text format rather than like a PDF. And so, yes, it's going to be available on the iPad, and our folks will be able to read the magazine any way they want, print or digitally.